Food foraging. By the way, there are reports of food shortages in stores, but if you look at manuals, books, or even videos, there are plenty of people who forage for food in the wild. You can find wild grapes and other berries, although some are poisonous. You have to really know what you're doing or even study under a qualified professional forager. But there's lots of food to be had just in what you call weeds. People know some people eat dandelions, but there are many other weeds that we try to get rid of that have medicinal and nutritional properties. Just a reminder to keep your mind open and stop listening to what you're being told is true, folks. Look at the way the animals feed themselves, bird feed themselves, and here you are buying groceries at stores that are rapidly running out of food. Maybe the squirrels are onto something, eh? How is it they can sustain themselves, but if you were in the same situation, you'd starve? The only thing you lack is knowledge to feed yourself properly. And by the way, the foods that we call weeds are higher in nutrition than our factory-grown vegetables and fruit. Why? Because they grow as nature intended, without the intervention of man. It's just logical that a seed will take root on soil that's good for it, but if it lands on soil that isn't, it'll die. In our farming practices we try to enhance the quality of the soil, but it's been used so often for the same growing that it's running out of nutrients. Seeds will take on soil that will nourish them in nature. I can think of one right now that grows in every crevice it can find in my yard, and that's purslane. I'm going to provide website links at the bottom so you can explore for yourself. Yes, there's a video I'm linking in and it's showing purslane. Purslane is very common. You'll look at it and say, oh, that stuff, because you've seen it so often. Ivo, I just want to remind everyone that the system you live in requires your belief in it in order to exist. You have been led to believe that what you eat is the food you require, while it is in fact poison to you. It is poisoned with herbicides and pesticides in order for large quantities of food to be available, so in fact these foods are more manufactured than they are grown with the care and love of food of the olden days. One day while Sharon lived in Toronto, she walked by the local Quick Mart that had a bin of apples for sale outside. She walked past the bin of applies to the old orchard next door that had been planted years ago by the people living in the mental health center, and she picked apples there. She got the apples for free when others were paying for apples that had been purchased next door. You are told you do not have the time to pick apples, that you must do the quickest, most convenient thing possible to gain your sustenance, and so you have lost the hands-on approach to your own contentment. Yes, feeding yourself is contentment. So many of you are insecure and suffer from neuroses, but this is because you are living in a system that has taken you away from nature and the wonder of being able to create your own livelihood. You've had that wonder replaced with having to go to a job that now seems to hold little interest and especially meaning for many of you. Flipping hamburgers or selling Crocs for a living does not create much self-esteem. It creates an income and keeps you beholden to the system that does not meet your true needs, when becoming self-sustaining, at least in some respects, would provide that sense of being secure and being nurtured for you again. Your artificial system does not meet your human needs. Not at all. Take a moment to recognize this now. For some of you, you grow gardens and this is commendable. Sharon enjoys growing beefsteak tomatoes, and holding the fruit of the plant in her hands after watching it all mature is in fact a spiritual experience. Why do I call it that? Because the spirituality of growing your own food is about connection to the earth and to the mother who sees to your needs. You live in societies of disconnection. You pass by many people you may even see every day, yet you never stop to introduce yourself or get to know them unless there is an accident or other such event that you can either commiserate together or care for the wounded together. Then that crisis connects you. And this is another point I wish to bring home to you, that you are crisis-oriented. Unless there is a crisis, how many of you talk to your neighbors? When the fire truck pulls up, then all the neighbors go outside and talk to each other to discuss this event, but normally you say nothing to each other whatsoever. Is this life to you? This is the time to reconnect to the earth. How can you pick your own food? How can you learn about what Mother Earth has to offer you that you have until now rejected as a weed? Many of you ingest herbals, and now you are seeing that they are plant life grown in all parts of the world, available to help your ailments. Did you know there is such a thing as wild grapes? There is. Did you know that blueberries grow in the wild and they taste far better than domestic blueberries as well? Where do you think our domesticated foods came from? From the wild, originally. In Canada anyway, we've all seen loads of horse chestnut trees. These can be eaten. We also tap maple syrup here. Just like in the pioneer days. They didn't have processed sugar, lucky for them, or white death as I like to call it. They had maple syrup and it's still considered a treat. I don't know how many people have apple trees, pear trees, and I've even seen an apricot tree once with fruit falling onto the ground. Look how much is provided by just one tree and yet people let it rot. I can't understand that. I know there are groups in Toronto that approach homeowners and offer to pick their fruit trees for them so they can provide food to the needy. That's very sensible. Ivo, many of you diet constantly. You are always trying to control your weight. You have a disconnected attitude to your food, in fact. If you were to grow it yourself or begin to forage for healthy foods, then you would gain that instinctual spiritual connection back with Mother Earth through your diet. Your dietary woes are symptomatic of the fact that you are so disconnected to nature. That is why it is possible to sell you every type of artificial food without your questioning your ingestion of it. You have no natural connection to Earth. Those who control your planet understand this. They have undermined your natural connection in so many ways which allows you to fall prey to their agendas. They have an agenda of exploitation and money making, and they exploit your natural needs in order to make money. They have you work for it, they pay you, and then they gain the money back again by demanding that you pay your way through life. Paying for anything is an unnatural process, yet we see that so many of you are defending your system and fearing the upcoming economic crash. It must be so that you face your fear of losing your system. I realize many people have suffered horrendously with lockdowns and mandates over the last few years. Many people have lost their homes and their livelihood. We sympathize with you, but it is an artificial system you are losing in your disconnection to reality. Sharon seems shocked by this statement, so I will explain further. Any artificial system is a system of disconnection from reality. Does that not make sense? You believe you have a reality, yes, it is artificial. Now you will be gaining a natural reality, one of reconnection with God and nature. It will require that you release your current unreality, but it will happen because the majority will embrace this. Many people innately understand that they lack spiritual time in nature, and they are undertaking even the most smallest of ways to reconnect. Do you go to the beach? When it is hot and a good dip in cool water would seem refreshing, do you partake of what Mother Nature provides for you? Or would you prefer going to a pool laced with artificial chemicals? Me, lol, I'm at the beach. Was there the other day even. Ivo, do you step into an air-conditioned cafe to eat a lunch, or would you prefer a picnic basket under a shady tree? What happens as soon as the weather is warm enough in Ontario, Canada? People head up to the cottage to spend time in nature. You gladly weather the bugs in order to have some time swimming and enjoying the blessings nature has to bestow on you. The urge to reconnect with nature and leave the rat race, as you call it, is so obvious, yet it would not occur to any of you to live this way entirely. You believe you need money. You do not. Were you to forge out now, I guarantee you would find a property suitable for restoration that would be abandoned. There are many old farmhouses that have been abandoned and would be suitable to live in again. So many of you believe that you must have the same type of house that all your neighbors have, the neighbors you seldom speak to. You do not consider alternative lifestyles because you believe that the lifestyle you have is the only option you have. It is not. There are many who have struck out on their own by simply changing their values, and they live quite happily. You believe that the system you live in will make you happy because they tell you it will, but in fact many find out otherwise. Me, I've seen some in old buses they've fixed up, or even large sheds. I salivate every time I see something like that, even a mobile home, because that is a dream of mine as well. But not for this lifetime, I guess. I'm off to bigger things. But I would have loved to. Ivo, there are many people who do not follow my messages because they have little inclination to develop themselves spiritually. The first step to becoming more spiritual, or developing consciousness, is to look at yourself. In looking at your own thoughts, behaviors, and actions, you become the observer. You are no longer the actor. There is the soul connection so many of you desire. It can also be found in nature. Me, I started getting more into this when I stopped working. I think having to work a job is a big deterrent to people going back to nature, a big one. I like working online, that's a good alternative to holding a job. There are loads of ways to make money. Start a YouTube channel, monetize it, and you can even put some albums up that people like to hear. The more likes you get, the more money you make. You don't even have to create the content, for crying out loud. And by the way, you'll notice that my channel isn't monetized. It seems I can barely keep it up without being censored, but I just keep bashing out the truth, and too bad about the consequences. Ivo, it is something so many of you are sorely missing, yet you do not even realize it.